This is Amud Yomi Gemara in Berachos Daf Chof Tes Amud Aleph. We're holding in the very bottom of Chof Ches Amud Beis, 2 lines from the bottom, the beginning. In middle of discussing the Shemayna Esrei, we continue by discussing the 19th bracha. Tanu Rabbanan, says the Gemara, Shimon Apekuli, is there Shemayna Esrei brachas later of Gamliel al Seder b'Yavne. In Yavne, Rav Gamliel told the Chacham, does anyone know how to add on another bracha against the Sedukin? So Amad Shmuel HaKatan got off it tikna, and he established this 19th bracha against the Sedukim. The next year, Shmuel HaKatan, he went to be a shliach sibur and he forgot the bracha that he himself made. He couldn't recall. On the top of Chatesam and Aleph continues the Gemara, and he thought about it for 2 or 3 hours, trying to remember precisely that which he said, and they did not remove him. They allowed him to sit there, stand there perhaps, and remember and try to conjure up the tefillah that he wrote. Says the Gemara, why not? Why did they take him down? If the made a mistake in any of the brachas, so we don't remove him. But we have to be malus, and why? Because we have to be afraid that maybe he is a min. So maybe the reason Shimon Apekuli can't recall the bracha, it's because he himself went off the derech. Says the Gemara, no. Shiny Shimon HaKatan the ilu taknei. Because he was the one that made the bracha, and therefore we don't have to be worried that he went off, and therefore they allowed him to stay for Bezer Gimel Shais until he was able to recall the bracha that he himself wrote. He says more, what do you mean? Even though he wrote it, but maybe he went off. We have a gemiri that a good man doesn't go bad. Says Gemara, really? Is that true? V'aksiv, what the pasuk says, says the pasuk, when the tzaddik turns away from his sidkas and he becomes avel, he becomes bad. So how can he tell me it never happens? Answers the Gemara, who Rasha Meikara? That pasuk referring to someone who's a Rasha from the beginning. Then he did tshuva, then we have to be worried he might go back. Aval tzaddik Meikara loy. Says Gemara, loy. Is that true? We learned in the Mishnah, don't trust yourself to the day that you die. About 10 lines down, the first line is Kohen Gadol. Shimish v'kuna shemaynim. Kuna gedayla shemayna shana. Shemaynim shana. Incredible. For 80 years, he was Kohen Gadol b'sayv nasa Saduki. And yet in the end, he became a Saduki. Amar Abaya, hu Yanai, hu Yochanan. Yani and Yochanan were one and the same person. Rava Amar, Yani l'chad Yochanan l'chad, Yani Rosh Meikara, Yochanan Tzaddik Meikara. So, it's good according to the Abaya, it says Yani and Yochanan are the same person. And therefore, okay, we don't see someone who could have gone bad. Al Rava Kasha, according to Rava, the Yana and Yochanan were different people. So we see that someone could go off. We see that according to Rava, Yochanan Kohen Gadol became a Tzeduki. So how can you tell me no one ever goes off? Even one who's originally a tzaddik can indeed go back. So the Gemara goes full circle, says, okay, so Shmuel HaKatan, why did they remove him? Answers the Gemara, Shiny Shmuel HaKatan da'aschel ba, since he began to recite the bracha, and only afterwards he forgot the text, and therefore, Damar Rav Yudam Rav, V'tem Rav Shubin Levi, Loishan al Shaloi hischel ba, Avol hischel ba kaimra. If he finished the bracha, then he showed us he wasn't a tzeduki. Then if afterwards he forgot the wording, we allow him to wait until he completes it, because clearly he did not go off. We're at the 2 dots, about 20 lines down. First word line is Hani Sheva. Says the Gemara, delving a little bit deeper after we finished the Shemona Esrei brachos for during the week, what about for other occasions? Says the Gemara, Hani Sheva the Shabbat Kenegin me, the 7 brachas of Shabbos, according to whom were they? Mitakein Amar Rav Tachlafa. Says Rav Tachlafa ben Shaul, Kenegin Sheva, Koylo Shav David Alamayim. The 7 brachas were created corresponding to the 7 koilos that David HaMelech said. Ha-Teisha de Rosh Hashanah keneged. What about the 9 brachas of Rosh Hashanah? Amar Rav Yitzchak, Demin Kartignin Keneged Tisha Azkara Shamar Chana B'Tfilah. It goes corresponding to the 9 Azkaras that Chana said in her Tfilah. Damar Mar B'Shashana Nivked Asar Rachel V'Chana. They were answered and they had children, and therefore corresponding to Chana's Tfilah are the 9 brachas we see in the Shemona Esrei of Rosh Hashanah. Continues the Gemara, Hani Esrim V'Arba, the Tainis Keneged, be the 24 brachos that they said on Tainesim, a special tefillah. They used to say, Amar Rav Chalbo Keneged Esrim V'Arba, Renanais. The 24 Renanais, the 24 beautiful like songs, Shamar Shleima B'Shash Shechnes Aron LeBeis Kodesh HaKadoshim, that Shleima HaMelech composed, they brought the Aron into the Kodesh HaKadoshim. Yachi Komen Amin Emrin, who says the Gemara, so why do we see 24 every day? Answers the Gemara, Eimer Amrin and Shleima. When did Shlomo HaMelech say them? B'yom derachmi, only on a special day of mercy. Ananami b'yom derachmi amri lehu. Therefore, we only say it on a fast day. We continue on the last very narrow line. Rav Yeshua Aimer Me'in Shemona Esrei. Says Rav Yeshua, you don't have to say the full 18. Rather, you say the Me'in. You say in a bridge form. Asks the Gemara, Ma'ya Me'in Shemona Esrei. What does it mean by an abridged form of the Shemona Esrei? Answers the Gemara, Rav Amar Me'in Kol Bracha Bracha, a shortened version of every bracha. Ushmuel Amar, no, Shmuel says there's a special text, and we reference this in the beginning of the Masechta, the bracha of Havinenu, if you remember. Eliyahu Hanavi bumped into Rav Yosi, who was davening by the Chorva. I think this was on Daf Gimel, perhaps. And over there, he told him he should have davened a shortened tefillah. What was that shortened tefillah? It was this tefillah of Havinenu. Says the Gemara, says Shmuel, what is the tefillah? Havinenu Hashem Elokeinu Ladas Derachecha. Give us the Das Hashem to know your ways, and circumcise our hearts to fear you. Forgive us so that we could be redeemed. And keep us far, rachuk, from our suffering. And fan us in the pastures of your land, and dispersions, gather us in from the 4 corners of the world. And judges who make a mistake, they should be inspired to judge properly. And against the Rishayim, you should lift up your hand. And Tzadikim should rejoice in the building of your city and in the perfection of your Beis HaMikdash. And if you're paying attention, you'll see that each of these lines is really a section of Shemona Esrei that he's taking one line from. Before we call you Hashem, please answer us. Baruch atah Hashem, Shaimeya Tfilah. Layit Abaye, and Abaye wasn't happy with this tefillah. Layit Abaye, 3 lines from the wide lines. Amanda Matzi Avinenu, on one who would daven this tefillah. Says the Gemara, Amr Rav Nachman Amar Shmuel. Rav Nachman says, in the name of Shmuel, Kolosh and Nekulam Misaladam Avinenu. In the name of Shmuel, of course, Shmuel is one that composed Avinenu a moment ago. Rav Nachman says in his name, the entire year one could daven this tefillah chutz from special times. Motzei Shabbos, Motzei Yom Tovim, and they, why? Shesarach Leimer Havdalah B'chayne Adas, therefore you cannot say Avinenu. Maskava Rabbi Shmuel. Rabbi Shmuel asks, V'nemrei bracha reviyas b'vnei atzma. Why don't you just say the 4th bracha? Just say the bracha of Atachayne by itself. Why do you have to say the whole Shemona Esrei for that? Miloi Tanan, did we not learn in the Mishnah? Rabbi Kiva Aimer teaches Rabbi Kiva Amra bracha reviyas b'vnei atzma. One is allowed to say the 4th bracha by itself. Rav Elazar Aimer b'Haida. You should say it in Haida. But either way, what do we see? We see that you're able to say the bracha by itself. So why are we saying that you have to, that on Motzei Shabbos, Motzei Yom Tov, you have to say the whole Shemona Esrei? Just say that bracha by itself. Answers the Gemara, Atu Kulu Ashana Kula Miavdina Rabbi Kiva. The rest of the year, do we do like Rabbi Kiva? The Hashtanami never, now we should do like him. What does that mean? Explains the Gemara, Kula Ashana Kula Maitem Avdina Rabbi Kiva. Tim Nesrei Tikun Tishrei Lo Tikun. 18 brachas were established and not 19. Achanami, so to over here, Shavatikon, Tamne Loitikon, 7 were established and 8 were not established. The first 3, the last 3, and the bracha of Havinenu. So says the Gemara, Masler Marzuchav Nechle Bechlal Havinenu Hashem Lekino Avdom Mekadosh Lechol. Why don't we just stupid Am Avdom Mekadosh Lechol? Says the Gemara, indeed, kasha, that is a good kasha. And as always, we point out, the kasha means that there is a teretz. It's not the same as to yufta. And this is the reason that in reality we paskin, one could say Avinenu Lamaisa, we do not. But according to the strict letter of halacha, we could say such. We conclude, we're 3 lines into the wide lines, one more shtickle Gemara. Amar Rav Bibi bar Abaye, says Rav Bibi bar Abaye, Kuloshan Nekulam Misalat Avinenu Chutz. We just started saying V'sein Talomatar. Now we have the Gemara that you have to say such. So you can't say Avinenu. Ask the Gemara the same kasha as we just said. Why don't we throw it in as well? Says the Gemara also the true day. You're going to come to make a mistake. So why do we suggest you can say Abdullah B'Chana and Das? We should have the same worry. You're going to come make a mistake. Answers the Gemara. But the line about Havdalah is at the beginning of Havinenu, so you're not going to come to confusion. We're worried they're going to be confused. Ravasi has further of an aim b'shamei tefillah, so say it in shamei tefillah. Tam Rav Tachman Am Ravasi Tavlo Eske Gvurus Kisham V'Tches Hamesim Machzir Noisai Sheila Berachos Sham in Machzir Noisai. Why do you not go back if you forgot V'sein Talamater? This is relevant. We're only a few days into V'sein Talamater. An important halacha. If we forget V'sein Talamater, what do you do? Einon Machzir Noisai. Why not? Sherachalayim b'shamei tefillah. You can say it in shamei tefillah. V'Avdal B'Chana Das. Machzir Noisai as well. Nishachalaim Ralakais. So says the Gemara, why don't we put it into Shemei Tefillah? Says the Gemara, Ta'a Shaini. Only if one makes a mistake, forgets, then he's allowed to put in Shemei Tefillah B'Lechatchila. We put in its own bracha, and that's the reason why the Gemara does not want to allow one to Lechatchila say Sheila, to say V'sein Talamatar in Shemei Tefillah. We'll stop over here. We'll pick it up by Gufa, a few lines from the bottom of the next year. B'siyata Dishmaya.